Lotus Financial Services, and she's going to be talking to us about Zakat. She currently oversees the business development and operations of Lotus Group and has 23 years of experience that transverses financial strategy, business development, Islamic finance, and business process management. She's also the non-executive director of Lotus Bank Limited. So thank you very much, ma'am, for your time. Really appreciate every year that you come and provide this talk and help us in understanding some of the most important aspects of our deen. So thank you very much, ma'am. Over to you. And I'll moderate the chat to let you know if there are any questions. Or would you prefer if we waited till the end completely for questions, or are you okay to be interrupted if somebody has a question?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I can be stopped actually.
Okay.
If you move things along, I don't mind actually. It's fine.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you to Tahara for inviting me again to present whatever a little bits I know about Zakat. I think this is the 4th or 5th time now. Alhamdulillah, I thank you for that. And thank you all for joining. So, can you still see my slides?
Yes, we can still see the slides. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so we'll jump right into it. I'm actually glad that we're all here today because we all know that Zakat is the 3rd pillar of Islam, right? And we started off, understanding that, but we don't really know about Zakat. That's one thing I also noticed. And I've wondered because we discuss so many other things, the day, but we don't really talk about Zakat. I can't really see the comments section, right? Because I thought I could, but I guess Google Meet is different. So raise your hand if you were ever caught this way, with the expression of, wait, what? Which one is Zakat again? I thought it was, I've been paying Zakat, which one is Zakat, I was caught with that expression at some point. And I'm sure many people were caught with that expression. And I'm sure some people today will be caught with that expression. Because even last year, some people were still caught with that expression with what? And so if you are here, to learn more, alhamdulillah, if you already know, alhamdulillah, you can share the message, as you go along. So like I said, last year, I was wondering why is the least taught pillar? And, several things crossed my mind just recently, and I was like, okay, fine. It could be because, the first pillar is actually Salat. Sorry, the second pillar is Salat. The 4th pillar is fasting. And we are taught those very, very early in life. Very early, you have to learn the surahs and you continue struggling with yourself on, how to pray. And then you add one, I'm just going to pay, only Fajr, only Isha before I go to bed. I'm not doing anymore. Eventually, you add everything, you struggle. Then fasting is slightly different because even as children, you wake up with your parents, have their sahur with them and continue your own lunch after. But then by the time you're older, you start doing your own fast. And so we're taught very early about those 2 pillars. And I think because a lot of concentration is on that, the 3rd pillar, which another reason I realized, because the 3rd pillar becomes, obligatory on us when we're much older. So there's nobody there with the, like with the timer that says, that starts beeping, time to teach the Zakat, time to teach Zakat. And so it just falls off, by the wayside. Another reason I realized is because we live in a secular state. If in most Islamic societies, government is actually in charge of Zakat. So it's like a tax, come around, a tax, what do you earn, they tax you and you have to pay. So I think that's another reason. And the last reason, which I think is also the most common, well, apart from the first 2 I said, is that a lot of people confuse Zakat with Sadaqah. So I think that's also a reason why, there's a little challenge with this particular 3rd pillar of Islam. So well done to Tahara for having at least an annual series on trying to shed more light on what Zakat is really about. So let's get into it. What is Zakat? It's just obligatory charity. Obligatory, I think the word here is obligatory charity. We'll talk about Sadaqah very soon. But Zakat is obligatory charity. And as I mentioned earlier, in most Islamic societies, it is administered by the government. And what does it mean? The first thing I like to say here, it means to purify. You purify your wealth with Zakat. You purify your wealth with Zakat. When you pay a Zakat, you're purifying your wealth, right? In purifying your wealth, you're showing appreciation, right? And what did Allah say? He says, Allah says, if you are appreciative, I will increase you. So by purifying your wealth, you're also going to increase it. Apart from that, you're increasing society as well. You're augmenting society. You're augmenting yourself. So, I mean, those are several meanings of Zakat. So let's talk about the reason, as in what proof do we have that Zakat is necessary or it exists at all? I'm not a scholar, please note that. So, okay, fine. So in Surah 9, that's At-Tawbah, which is the repentance, chapter 9, verse 103 says, O Prophet, of their properties take an obligatory charity, so that you may purify, sanctify them therewith, and pray for them. Verily, your prayer is a source of security for them. So that's telling us that we have to pay Zakat. In Surah 3, that's the family of Imran, Surah verse 180, it says, and let not those who covetously withhold that of which Allah has bestowed on them, of his bounty, that's wealth, think it is good for them, and so they do not pay the obligatory Zakat. It was for them. The things they covetously withheld shall be tied to their necks like a collar on the day of resurrection. So the one before was just talking about it. This one is now saying, if you don't do it, you're going to be punished for it. So I think that's authentic enough for us to take it seriously. So let's go ahead. So what are the benefits of Zakat? So let's talk about from the perspective of the giver. The perspective of the giver. Zakat actually inspires. It encourages generosity, encourages empathy and goodwill, right? And it discourages hoarding and miserliness because you have to give. And the interesting thing about, even if you are hoarding and miserly, and you have hoarded such a lot, it will be taxed. It will be taxed anyway. So you might as well give out, and then whatever you have at balance will be zakated, because we'll go forward to see how zakat is actually computed. So it discourages hoarding and miserliness and encourages investment and growth. Because if you have a certain amount and you know it's going to be taxed, zakated, then you have to invest it so that at least probably you make some money which will now pay your zakat. Rather than leaving the money unused, not used for any economic activity, and then it's not taxed. And so you lose both ways. The society loses, you lose. So what else? Apart from inspiring, zakat purifies. So zakat cleanses the soul and protects it from greed. Protects it from greed. So it's mercy of Allah. And then zakat brings blessings to your wealth. Who doesn't want blessings? We all want blessings. So, it's a good thing. So let's look at the perspective of the society, the benefits of zakat from the perspective of society. So zakat facilitates redistribution of wealth. So, in many economies, you have the wealthy, you have poor, and what zakat tries to do is to slowly but surely, transfer the wealth to where it belongs. Not where it belongs, to make sure that people have more. Because, I was at a program last week, and one of the topics there was the ills of poverty, the ills of poverty. Because poverty can actually lead to disbelief. So Allah, in his wisdom, understands that and is like, you know what? Fine, they don't have the opportunity maybe to make money. You have the opportunity to make money. Find a way to redirect it to them. Because guess what? If you have a society that is full of poverty and they resort to crime, you in your cushy houses will be the ones that will suffer for it. So you might as well try as much as possible to redistribute the wealth so that it can move on, go along, I remember what we said about inspiring generosity and empathy and goodwill, so that if people see, if people that deserve zakat see that the rich or wealthy are doing something for them, they will, calm down, tell their children, don't do that. There'll be more of encouragement to do well, rather than bitterness, envy and all of that. So it actually does help the society, reduces the gap between the rich and the poor, poverty elevation, and you have a vibrant society and reduction in societal ills. There's some things that a person might never think of doing if they were better off. There's some wealthy people that do bad things, of course, but this is not about character now. This is about situation. You have 3 kids, they have not eaten. You don't have anything. What are you going to do? So it's not. This is about what can poverty resort, to start doing. So it helps to avoid that. So who can receive zakat? So Quran, the same chapter 9, as At-Tawbah, verse 60, talks about the 8 categories of people that can receive zakat. So the needy, the poor, is used interchangeably, right? But my interpretation, that the needy, you can't really tell from their faces. They don't come to you begging, but they're struggling. Right? But the poor, it's clear that the poor, right? So those 2 classes of people, they qualify for receiving zakat. Those employed to collect the zakat funds, I said that in some societies, it's the government that actually administers this. So they are qualified to be paid from the zakat. And even in Nigeria, we have some societies, foundations that manage zakat and sadaqah. It can be paid from those funds. And then to attract the hearts of those who have been inclined. Sometimes during research, you get to hear a lot of things. The funny thing is, I think this is the 4th of the time I'm doing this. I learn something every year. Every year I learn something. I'll try and share what I've learned every year. So to attract the hearts of those who have been inclined. So for example, there's someone who maybe has been researching on Islam, is not a Muslim, mixes with Muslim, has Muslim parents, is considering it, but is not, but has a debt. Zakat can actually be used to pay that debt, to soften their hearts, So that's on one side. Then those in debt, so these are Muslims, but they're in debt, in hardship, real hardship. Zakat can be used for them. And then to free the captives, this doesn't really apply to us anymore, as in our world, but it's a category. And then for Allah's cause, that's for jihad, and the wayfarer, that's the stranded traveler. There's an interesting story here that I heard recently, and it was even yesterday I realized I'd been in a similar situation. But for here, you can actually pay zakat to the wealthy. One of my very learned mentors mentioned a story where he was in the airport, and there was someone that he knew who was, I'm not sure he knew it or didn't know him, but he was a wealthy person, but they had stolen his wallet. So he was stuck. He was stuck at the airport. I think he had a long layover, can't eat, can't do anything, can't make calls, nothing. And so it was like, okay, I would help him out, and this would be my zakat. So even though the man was wealthy, he was stuck. He had nothing to do. So that's a form of zakat. So I'm saying this so that we don't always think, oh, just poor and needy. There might be situations that require zakat. So I realized that when he said that story, I was amazed and realized that even I had a situation when I was about 18. I was stuck in Ethiopia for 10 days, right? Luckily, we were sorted out, so we didn't need that. But I realized that if we didn't have any help at that time, I would have been a wayfarer, stuck traveler, just like that. So I realized that's another situation. Okay, so moving forward, differences between zakat and zakah. Yes, so this is very important because, like I said earlier, a lot of times people confuse sadaqah and zakat and think, oh, I've met my zakat. But no, what you paid was zakat, not actually zakat. Remember that. Okay, so let's go through it. So with zakat is obligatory charity, right? So you pay zakat. You pay zakat. That's the term. I've never heard give zakat. I pay zakat. But for sadaqah, have you ever heard pay sadaqah? No, you give sadaqah because it's charity. It's just voluntary charity, right? So that's one major difference. Another difference is that for Zakat, there's a fixed minimum sum, there's a defined computation, and there's a specific timing. So it's more structured, more structured. For Sadaqah, you can give as you wish, as you like. And then under Zakat, the beneficiaries and utilization are clearly defined. So here again, we have the structure. For Sadaqah, the beneficiaries and utilization are the giver's discretion and wishes. And for what I have seen, Sadaqah is actually much, 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 much more than Zakat. And that's because Zakat is like the minimum, and Sadaqah is, Sadaqah is actually what you use to do the main goodness, things like building hospitals, doing really big good things. It's actually from Sadaqah. And another thing I realized, because I said every year some realizations come to you, is that from the computations, you will see that Zakat is from your net income at the end of the year, right? And from that net income, you will have already deducted all your charities. So, we want to build this house. I want to pay school fees. I want to pay medical bills. My money is not enough to pay rent. All those are Sadaqah. That's just Sadaqah. Because remember, you're not thinking of who you are giving. You're just thinking, oh, okay, this is that, and that's just Sadaqah. And then it's now the net that you now pay Zakat on. So Sadaqah is actually what makes the world go round. And the Zakat, I believe, is there for the misers, that Sadaqah, they don't do nothing. So, okay, fine, you come back and meet us here. Pay your Zakat. Right. Okay, so moving on. Okay, yes, one more thing before we go into the calculations. Is your income halal? I started asking this question last year, and that's because there was a realization that Zakat is not paid on impermissible income. I think it was 2 years ago I started asking that. Zakat cannot be paid on impermissible income, right? So what do we mean by impermissible income? So riba, everybody knows what riba is. Interest income is impermissible. So interest income is from conventional deposits, conventional savings, treasury bills, bonds, right? That is interest income. So you can't pay Zakat on them. You can actually pay Zakat on the principal, your capital, you can pay Zakat on that. But all the income that you've been accumulating, can't be Zakat on it. In fact, you're supposed to gift it out as charity. Then the shares you have in breweries and conventional banking and conventional banking stocks, you can't pay Zakat on them either. You have to, gift it out. So that's the income that you have on it, or your capital. Then income from gambling and lotteries. There's so much, Naira bets, all the bets going around, you can't pay income. So, you win 1 million from Naira bets and say, oh, let me go and celebrate. I thank the Lord. You can't do that. You can't pay Zakat from it because it's not permissible. And then income from unethical and illegal activities, you really can't pay Zakat from it. Oh, there was one story I forgot to say, something that I learned recently. It was the illegal activities that made me remember. And I think, okay, no, I'll say that when we go to the type of people that can receive Zakat. But let me just say, I'll say that I remembered. It was from when I was talking about those that are, can you give, no, don't worry. I'll say what we're talking about. Can you give, is it only non-Muslims that you can give Zakat? So I'll talk about it there. Okay, fine. So what are halal options? What are the halal options? So we said all these are impermissible. And so do you have halal options? Yes, you do. The non-interest finance industry is growing, and therefore there are now non-interest banks, there are now non-interest fund managers, there are now non-interest bonds, there's now non-interest insurance, that's Takafu, there's now non-interest pension, and of course there's real estate and general business. So if you have a lot of your income in interest-bearing securities or interest-bearing transactions, you can now start slowly moving out. I say the word slowly. If you could, do it once, but it may not be easy. But start being conscious of the fact that you need to move out of it, and most likely have to dash out a lot. It's really up to you. But really start thinking about it, because somebody once told me, yes, and I think that interest is so disliked by Allah. He even dislikes it more than zina. I know he dislikes zina, but he even dislikes interest more. So I think we should, think about that. Okay, fine. So let's move on. Zakat and categories of wealth. Okay. All right. Zakat is due on these categories of wealth. Agricultural products, that's grains and fruits produced by the earth. Like I said, I'm not a scholar, but I've heard several people saying, "Oh, but it's not only agricultural produce that comes from the earth, with things like yam and stuff like that. That the Prophet has never mentioned fruits and things like that. That was because there are no vineyards or orchids in orchards in that time, right? So as long as it's agricultural products, you pay zakat. So for example, the example I was giving was that, are you saying that you have an orchard and you harvest 30 million naira worth of maybe oranges and bananas, and I say, oh, I'll pay zakat on it because
I think we might have lost her connection. So just please give us a second, and I'm sure she'll join back soon enough. Hello, can you hear me, ma? It seems like you're trying to join back.
mentioned really. So everything.
Hello, can you hear me, ma? I think we lost you for a second. Maybe what we can do is, I don't know if you can hear me now. If we can turn off your video while you're sharing.
And remember that what scholars try to do is to try and interpret as so and the society finds ourselves. So as things begin to change, all the you think, for example, cows, you can and all. Then you from earth, cows, sheep, camels. Then go and say that stuff for ways to answer it properly, and so shut there as well. And then now use there's zakat. So that means today when we're discussing the competition of zakat, I'm only focusing on financial assets, none of them. So please, so
hello, can you hear me now?
Are you saying something?
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Yes, I can.
We lost you for a second.
When? When?
It's about a minute. I think about slide 17. Is it possible to, as you're sharing your screen, maybe if you turn off the video so that your network will be better? Yes. Talking about eligibility and yeah, you were speaking about farming and oranges. Yes, like if you had like a farm and if you harvest oranges or something along those lines, is that eligible for zakat?
You're breaking. Okay, so 1 second. Let me turn off the video. Where is it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So 1 second. Let me just turn the video. Okay, yes. So what were you saying?
Yeah, so around you, I think when I lost you, I think you were talking about how if you had a farm and you had oranges or something that's about the contention about whether you're supposed to pay zakat on like farm produce, that it wasn't necessarily discussed around the Prophet's time. So how that was that's the last thing I remember before I started losing you.
Okay, all right. So let me 1 second. Let me just go back there. Can you still see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. So what I was saying was that agricultural products, you pay zakat on these products. But I was saying that because in the text we have, it refers to produce from the earth, right? Some people, say things like, but you have oranges in the trees and purples in the trees, that it doesn't say so in the text that we have. But the scholars have said that was only because they were not really rampant in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. However, you can't say that, for example, you harvest 20 million worth of bananas and oranges, and you now say, well, since it's not mentioned, I'm not paying zakat on it. I'm like, no, not at all. All agricultural produce are zakatable. So yeah, so that's what I was saying there. Then of course there's livestock, cows, sheep, goats, camels, which feed freely from the earth. Then there's gold and silver. Gold and silver stored for wealth. I'll talk a bit more on that later, because like I said I learned something extra to help with understanding how much how much you possess before being eligible to pay zakat on your jewelry. Do you understand? And then on business merchandise, you have inventory, stock for business purposes, land, buildings, all of that for sale, and then cars for sale. So, but not your personal items. And then financial assets, that's cash, savings, investments, rental income, profit shares, securities, and bonds. So, but I was saying that for the purpose of this presentation, it's just on financial assets. If you need guidance on zakat for agricultural products, livestock, and all of that, you need to see your scholar. I will not be discussing that. Okay. So going to zakat eligibility, the first thing is ownership. You have to own the asset. You have to own the asset. If the asset is yours, then it qualifies to be part of your zakat pool, right? So that's one. The second thing is nisab. So nisab is the minimum amount of wealth a Muslim must own before becoming obliged to pay zakat. So there's a minimum balance. So it's not just, oh, everybody come and pay zakat. There has to be a minimum value of wealth considered before it now becomes zakatable. And then there must be growth and abundance above need, which is why the zakat is paid on the net after deducting all your expenses and all of that, and charities. And then solvency, you must be free from debt. Then zakat is due on wealth after one lunar year passes. However, zakat is due on crops at the time of harvest. All right. So let's go into zakat computations. This is actually quite interesting. The way you compute nisab is 87 grams of gold or 612 grams of silver. But we don't really have the calculations because we have the Muslim body that does that, and that's National Moon Sighting Committee of Nigeria. And it's always good to defer to whatever rulings such a body has. So they are the ones that tell us Ramadan crescent, the moon has been sighted. They are the ones that tell us, oh, Eid is today or tomorrow. And they are the ones that tell us this is the value of nisab. So as you can see, the value of nisab currently is 8,640,240 naira. Usually I just go into my presentation, but I wanted to pause here a bit. And that's because just last year, 2023, this time last year, nisab was 2,528,000 naira. Think about that just pause on that for a second. Think about it. This time last year, if you had savings worth 2.5 million, you qualified to pay zakat. But now, what the Moon Sighting Committee is telling us is that if you have 8.6 million naira, then that's when you qualify to pay zakat. It shows, and when I saw this about 3 weeks ago. I was so shocked by it because I hadn't checked in a while. I was so shocked by it because it showed how our economy has degenerated in just a year. In just a year. About 3 years ago, nisab was about 1.6 million. So it's just even worse. 1.6 million about 3-4 years ago. Then it became 2.2, then it became 2.5. Now it's 3.4 fold. It's now 8.6 million, right? And you see, that's why it's good to discuss. I was discussing with a learned scholar again on this, and he passed a comment, and I was like, And the comment he passed was, yes, I understand that the sub is 8.6. But are you telling me that someone that saved 7 million cannot pay Zakat? I was like, wow, it's actually true. So the question I have here is to pay or not to pay. It's actually based on your conscience. You're not obliged to pay based on, what we have been told, but you may be morally, you can think about it, morally obliged. 7 million. So are we saying it's, or there's someone that saved 5 million over a year, 5 million naira should not pay Zakat? That's what it means based on our economy. However, this is where, the moral side of things can come in. And you can be like, you know what? Zakat on 5 million is 125,000. Right? So should you pay or not pay? If you pay it, it's for Allah. It's for Allah, right? Or you want to pay it as sadaqah instead, if you want. But that's just the question I'm posing. Because I didn't what thing normally when I just give the SAB, I just move on to the computation. But today I decided that, let's just think about it for a second. So you can decide that, my savings are not up to 8.6, therefore I will not pay. Done by next year. You can actually just pay it. If you make 765, even though you're not obliged, really. I think it's a moral obligation. So, but I mean, this is by choice, so you're not obliged, really. So now let's move on to the computations. So we have, so back to NISAB. So NISAB is 8.6. So we're going to go with what we have on moon sighting, 8.6 million, right? And the calculation for Zakat depends on the class of the assets. So there are different classes of assets, 20%, 10%, 5%, 2.5%. I think 10% on some crops, 5% on animals, 20%. I really don't concentrate on that, which is why I said, if you require advice on crops and livestock, you need to seek a scholar on that. But what I do know though is that if the harder the toil, the less the zakat due. So for example, example
if I can interrupt you a little bit more. Sorry, because I can see the chat. So there are actually two questions. One question is about livestock, which I think you just mentioned that, if you want to specific details, you should meet a scholar. But then there's also a question about how did you arrive at how is the NISAB amount arrived at?
Okay. It's usually based on gold, the value of gold, right? It's 7 grams of gold. What is the value of 7 grams of gold in Naira? In Naira. Do you understand? So
yes,
7 grams of gold in Naira last year was 2.5 million Naira. This year is 8.6 million. The interesting thing is that about last month, NISAB was actually over 9 million. So it has even come down now. So hopefully as the economy improves, NISAB will come down. And as NISAB comes down, it means that more people, what this means is that we're poorer. We're poorer. So it means last year, if your NISAB was 2.5 million, you were zakatable. Now, if you're still earning the same 2.5 million, you're nowhere near zakatable. That's what it means. It means, man, they're saying, go and take care of yourself and your family. That's what they're saying. Go and take care of yourself and your family, And they've raised it up because of the hardship going on. So that's what it actually means, So, so as the SAP comes down, it actually means the economy is improving. So I'm hoping it comes down, right? And to show, that the economy is actually improving. And the reason why I mentioned this is because this 8.6 is the minimum threshold. So 8.6 is and above is what you pay NISAB on and above. We're not saying is only. So for example, your net worth is 200 million. We're not saying pay only on 8.6. No, we're just saying the threshold is 8.6 million and above. So that's it. However, those below do not need to pay zakat. So the question is, those below. So for example, you saved 8 million. So 8 million in a society, you're not obliged to pay zakat this year. But morally, what do you think? 8 million is still a lot of money, and it's just 2.5%. And it will be a goodly loan, when you say goodly loan, lend Allah a goodly loan. But it's not compulsory, not at all. I'm not saying it's compulsory if it's below that threshold. So that's it. Okay, so since it's a financial assets, since I'm talking about financial assets today, that's your stocks, shares, all that, zakat is 2.5% on those. And I'll show you how to compute on the next page. But zakat this year is 216,000 on the minimum threshold. Last year, zakat was 63,000 minimum. So the good thing here is that zakat has actually increased, right? It's had increased. So the minimum zakat has increased. The only thing I see here, though, is that there will probably be less people that will be paying it, but at least it has increased. Okay, yeah. So how do you compute zakat? So now let's talk about value of gold and silver here. A lot of questions people ask is, oh, do I need to pay zakat on my jewelry? And the answer usually is yes, you do, because of some of the citations from the Prophet ﷺ. There was a lady wearing a bangle, and so he said, have you paid zakat on that? Better pay zakat on it, and all of that. Yeah, however, there's more context that I learned of last year, which I'll share now. And the context was that you pay zakat on jewelry if you have more jewelry than the other women of your peers. So I'll give 2 examples. So for example, if in your own standing, because you have different standings, if in your own standing, your friends or the ladies in your own circle have probably maybe 3 sets of gold jewelry, earrings, jewelry, they have like 3 different sets of it. That's what all your friends have. All of them have 3 sets, 3, 2, like that. You have 6, 7, or 5 sets of gold, then you must pay zakat on it. However, if you also have 3 with everybody else, then you don't need to pay zakat on it. Another example, if in your own circle, your friends, they have 2 or 3 trinkets boxes full of gold and silver, right? You also have 2 or 3 trinkets full of gold jewelry. You don't need to pay zakat on it because the women of your peers also have 2 or 3 boxes, trinkets of gold and silver. However, if you have 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, trinkets full of gold and silver, then you need to pay zakat on it. And I found that very, very interesting. I never heard that before. It was from a globally renowned Sharia scholar that said that. And I suppose it put more context. And probably that example we always give is probably because there were no other ladies wearing gold bangles in her time. So she stood out, so she had to pay zakat on it. So that's my own interpretation of that. But as we say, it's based on your own conscience as well. Okay, so going to so cash in hand and bank accounts, right? Definitely, those are due for zakat. Then business stocks or shares, definitely. Money you have loaned, but it's money you have loaned that you know will come back. So, for example, you lend somebody money, and the money is not yet due, but you know the person is going to pay you back. So you have to add it up as part of your assets. However, if the person has become bankrupt or the person does not acknowledge the debt, then you don't have to put that in. And then of course you subtract money that you yourself have borrowed from others. You subtract that are due. Let me emphasize that are due. So for example, you have a car loan that is 4 years. You can't bring pay 260,000. I said, I don't know how is compulsory and you have to, right? So it's very so and those is impermissible.
Hello. Hello, we lost you a little bit again. We cannot hear you again. Sure, she'll be able to get her connection back soon enough.
It has to be done at your own time.
Okay, we can hear you. We can hear you again. We can hear you now, Ma. Can you hear us? Oh wow. Okay. Complete loss. Let's give her a minute, please. Inshallah, she'll be back soon. About the car loan, I think what she said was if you are paying off a car loan, when it's time to calculate your zakat, you can't. So if you pay 2 years and you have 2 years left, you can't take those 2 years that are in the future to subtract. If you're going, so if you have 2 million naira left this year, you paid 1 million naira, that's fine, but you can't take the 2 million that you're going to pay in the next 2 years to now subtract from what you're paying this year. I believe that was what she said. But once she comes back, we can ask her to touch on that again, please. Okay, while we're waiting for her, maybe there's anyone in the, maybe you can put in the chat or you can maybe raise your hand up. Anyone who pays zakat at the moment, you know, what organizations do you use? Do you do it personally? What's your preferred style? Because I know people have different preferences. So if you paid zakat before or over the last 4 years, if you don't mind sharing what's your preferred method of paying zakat, just so we can have some conversations while we're waiting for Ms. Kekere-Ekun. Okay, the National Zakat Foundation has a zakat calculator on their website. Do they just help you calculate or do they help you distribute as well? Actually, maybe I'll just read because we have some announcements that we normally make. So I think I can read those now. Okay, excellent. I can read those now as well. So yeah, we just wanted to, so we want to inform everyone that the Collective is also currently gathering zakat donations to bolster various significant endeavors. This year our objective is to reach 100 million naira, focusing on offering medical assistance, settling hospital dues, sponsoring undergraduate students, aiding small-scale businesses, and aiding individuals struggle to sustain their livelihoods. We have already commenced sponsoring 15 Muslim female scholars in universities across Western Nigeria including the University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, University of Ilorin, among others. These scholars are pursuing degrees in diverse fields such as medicine, law, engineering, and other STEM disciplines. Our intention is to annually incorporate 5 more scholars into the sponsorship program, inshallah. In addition to our educational support, we aim to facilitate the growth of businesses and extend financial aid to those experiencing challenges in maintaining their livelihoods. Your Zakat donations will empower us to broaden our initiatives and positively impact more lives. Furthermore, our Ramadan feeding program endeavors to provide sustenance for most fasting Muslims with over 1.4 million naira raised towards our 30 billion naira target. We've already commenced making a difference. Each relief box, priced at 40,000 naira, supports a family for 2 weeks. You can also sponsor a family until the end of Ramadan for 80,000 naira. So please join us in spending kindness and compassion. Over the past 3 weeks of Ramadan, we have distributed 53 relief boxes to 53 families in Lagos. To stay informed about forthcoming events, both virtual and physical, please register for our mailing list provided in the link in the chat box. Additionally, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Tower Collective, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. If you're interested in joining our WhatsApp group, kindly provide your phone numbers. Alternatively, you can share your number with Latifa. Our WhatsApp group is specifically dedicated to sharing event updates and educational content, ensuring it remains free of unnecessary messages. Jazakallah khairan for your ongoing support, and may Allah reward you abundantly for your contributions. Let's collaborate to make a positive impact this Ramadan. Okay, I'm going to go into the chat, into the people, and see if I can. I think if you want to, Ibrahim, I want to, if you can raise your hand up, I can see if I can select you to like make a comment. If you wanted to share how you. Okay, Barbie, don't want to share. So yeah, I think everyone, if you can, we've put our bank accounts information in the chat box. We can ask Ms. Kekere-Ekun if she's okay with sharing the slides to the group. That can be something that's possible. Okay, depending on the amount you pay to individuals, and if you don't have a personal request, you pay to NGOs, alhamdulillah. Thank you. So please, everyone, please keep on sharing, what you do for Zakat organizations, you pay to organizations you used to pay your Zakat. I also know that last year she mentioned, and I remember specifically asking, if you live in, many people live in many different countries, but they're still tied to Nigeria, wanted to pay Zakat in Nigeria. So I know she mentioned that the ideal is to pay, locally where you reside. So if you can, you can obviously have a mix and match, but you should also try and pay some of your Zakat to organizations people around where you live. So even if you live in Canada, USA, you might obviously believe that there's more need in Nigeria, so you may want to pay all your Zakat there. But I think looking to see if you can pay locally is very beneficial. So please keep that in mind as well. And again, we have in the chat our bank account information. So please, we are hoping you're able to give some of your Zakat money to the Tahir Collective, inshallah. To Zakat and Sadaqah Foundation, thank you, Alison. Muslimhands.org.uk. Muslim Mercy Aid and Relief. Thank you. But we have a lot of people tuning in from the UK. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, still no sign of her. Inshallah, she'll be able to join shortly. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
so I'm back. Sorry about that.
I've lost.
So you have to know where you lost me so I can.
Okay,
But let me
yes,
share my screen
please.
again. Okay, so where did I stop?
I think if you can start from when you were talking about the car loans, I think that's kind of where we started to lose you. I think when you're
Okay.
if you
So you heard pensions, right?
yes, I believe we did.
Good. Okay, that's fine. So from the homes and cars and okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I mean that one is basic. So for homes where you reside with your family, for cars that your families use, riding animals. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Actually, if you can start from the pensions, there was just a request in the chat. Please start from the pension section again, ma'am.
From where? Because there was the pension section was quite long actually. I was talking about how I avoided it. Did you hear all that?
I did, but I think it's possible that others might not have. So if you can just
Okay.
maybe just
Okay, I'll just go. Okay,
summarize
yes,
the
yes,
pension,
that's
if possible, ma'am.
okay. All right, that's okay. So
you.
for pension, right? The easy part of the pension is if your pension deductions come directly to your possession and then taken out for pension. Do you understand? So it's part of your salary, you receive it, and then they take it out, right? For that one, there's no controversy on that. You pay your zakat, it's zakatable. Pay zakat on it, right? However, for the style of pension in Nigeria, where you don't smell your pension at all, it's taken at source and flung directly into your pension account, right? You don't smell it, you don't see it, you don't know anything about it, except when they give you your statement. So the question about that was, and what we thought for some time, was that you don't need to pay zakat on it. Where will I get the money from? Because zakat is cash based, right? So where will I get the money to pay zakat on my pension when I don't even know, I don't even have access to it, right? But I said I discussed with a Sharia scholar, and I had another wait, what moment? What he said was that is zakatable. However, you pay it as is convenient for you. You can pay it gradually. And when you retire and receive the cash, you can pay the balance. Or if you don't pay it at all, when you receive the cash after retiring, you can pay everything, because it means that every year you'll be computing your zakat on your pension, and it grows. I mean, it depends on how old you are now. My advice is that you start paying zakat now. If your pension reaches nisab, right, you should pay zakat on it, especially if you're just starting out, because for a lot of people who thought that if it doesn't come, because I mean I had read that text before, that if zakat doesn't come to your position, you don't need to pay. You don't need to pay. If your pension doesn't come into your possession, you don't need to pay zakat on it. And that's the school of thought we were like, until I spoke to this scholar, very respected, and he said you need to pay. It's due. Zakat is due on it, which you need to pay. And so that means there's a build up or something, and you have to pay it. So, which is why I said this awareness is so important, so important. It's not just salat and fasting. There's just so much. Yeah, so that's what I said about pension. So it's up to you to decide if you want to start paying now, gradually, or you want to wait until you're 60, 65, and you pay everything when you get the cash. All right. Okay. So then for homes, cars, riding animals, furniture, as long as it's for personal use, family consumption, you do not have to pay zakat on it. So that's fine. Then for inherited cash or funds, zakat is due on it after 1 year of of the death of the deceased. However, if it doesn't come into your possession, there's no zakat due on it. However, once it comes into your possession, you can pay the zakat, because remember we said it's about ownership, and part of ownership is also possession, or at least access. All right. Okay, fine. So yes.
Just to interrupt you a little bit, Emma, so 2 questions in the
Go ahead.
chat. One was
Alright.
about food stock, which again, I think you said, the question was, does the amount of the produce need to get to the nisab amount of price zakatable?
Yes, it should.
It should.
It has to.
And
Yes.
the
It
other
should.
question was, which part of the pension is zakatable, the new year add-on or the total as it accumulates this year?
Sorry, what part of the nisab is of the nisab
Of the
what?
pension is zakatable. So I think if your pension is 10 million this year, and the next year it goes up to 12, are you supposed to pay 10 million this year? Like, so do you just wait until the end and then, or do you every year you
No,
give?
it's on every year is different. Every year is different.
Okay.
Every year is different. So you pay on 10 last year. This year you pay on 12. The next you pay on 15.
So
Yes,
essentially,
because they are financial assets.
if
Your
you've
pension is
delayed,
a financial asset.
if you're not
Yes.
paying on your pension, and when you eventually you're supposed to now do, at this point, this year my pension was 10, you take 2.5 plus. This year my pension was 12, you take 2.5.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's best to calculate now, because I can assure you when you're 60, you probably would have forgotten everything. So it's best to start calculating now and just start paying it differently. But let me give you some advice that I realize, because a lot of people confuse sadaqah and zakat, right? There are actually opportunities for you to pay your zakat when you're paying sadaqah. I remember I said earlier that you actually pay more sadaqah than zakat. So you'll be surprised that there are many opportunities to make up for what you owe. Because we're going to look at because if there's one, you have a favorite, I don't want to use any words, or you have a favorite person who qualifies for needed zakat, but you just used to dash sadaqah, just dash the person sadaqah. You can change, because it's also about intention. You can change your intention for that person, so that when that dashing now becomes zakat, because the person qualifies. Do you understand? Right? So that could actually help you, because a lot of times when we're just dashing anyhow, you'll be surprised how much of it can actually be zakat. Especially in a society where you don't have standard collections, right? And one of the things I think is, I can't remember if it's the next slide. One of the things about paying zakat also is that you're supposed to make sure that the people in your environment, your immediate environment, your family are okay. Before you start paying zakat. You cannot have a brother that is struggling to pay his children's school fees, and then you are now paying zakat to I don't know, somewhere else. You have to satisfy your family first, then you can pay zakat. So there might be opportunities that you don't know as zakatable that actually are, right? Because that's where I started thinking about, okay, how do we solve this problem? And then so just start changing your intention. If your intention is not there, you can't go and say, oh, do you know what? All the zakat I paid last year, I've turned it to zakat. No, you can't do that. But you can change your intention going forward, so that you can, try and balance up as much as you can. And you realize that you probably pay zakat almost every month, to make it easier for you, because I don't think you want to be 60 and start calculating. The money you're supposed to be enjoying your retirement, you're going to pay everything in zakat. So it'll be better to start.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, it seems like this pension, is another question. So in the UK, this is deducted from your salary prior to your salary being paid. Do you still pay zakat on it?
Yes, you do. This the same thing I just said now. You have to pay zakat on it. I said we have many aha moments. Don't worry, you're not alone. You have to pay zakat on it, whether it's deducted at source, whether it's deducted after it hits your account. You have to pay zakat on it. So you need to if you need to calculate back if it reaches nisab, so you have to first make sure it reaches nisab, and then compute your zakat. Do you have any more questions?
Yes, I think this is so what happens when the calculated pension has increased significantly to the point it affects the cash you have to pay zakat? Or better put correctly, most of your future illiquid investments is more accessible than the wealth. Do you then focus on the accessible wealth?
Yes, focus on the accessible. No, sorry, what do you mean?
Yeah, I think what the person is saying is if most of your wealth is a liquid, so like it's tied in like maybe like homes or physical assets, and it's more accessible in the world, do you then focus on the accessible wealth?
No, you have to find a way. You have to find, so for example, if you have stocks of a certain value, right, and you have zakat to pay, you don't have cash, you sell some of it because it's a debt. It's actually a debt. One of the reasons why this is so serious is that if you don't pray your salat, that's between you and Allah. If you don't fast, that's between you and Allah, right? But if you don't pay your zakat, that's between you, Allah, and the society. The society he's trying to make better, right? So is a bigger responsibility, right? And then also, one of the questions we're going to be asked on Kiyama is, how did you make your money and how did you spend it, right? So, I mean, those kind of things makes it really grave, which is why it's a bit, surprising that we don't really talk about it until we're adults and you're like, what's happening here? It's really a grave situation, which we have to take seriously. And it's not like your usual government tax where there's tax avoidance. How can I reduce my tax liability? You can't do that with this one. You calculate it the same way they say you should compute it, you pay it. If you can't pay it, you pay over time. And that's the line I'm towing. I don't have the authority to give any other opinion because I'm not a scholar. There's the scholars that have the liberty to say, oh, based on what I did somewhere, I don't have that liberty. So that is the line that I'm towing. But I have had several conversations, and this pension conversation that I had was with a globally renowned scholar. So that's why I'm now confident enough to talk about it, because I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I removed pension from my slide. I said, I'm not discussing this, so I guess we can, I guess that's just it. Can we move on now?
There are two more questions. I think they'll be quick to answer.
Is it similar to this, or I can just finish and then we can go to, because
okay, let's finish and then we can come back to the questions afterwards.
Exactly. All right. So treading carefully with zakat distribution. We don't live in an Islamic state, so a lot of things we do ourselves, pay zakat yourself. You are the one that's going to look for the needy person, or you can pay to an organization that can help you distribute, your zakat. Hopefully, they will do it the way it should be done. We have quite a number of, good ones, zakat and sadaqah foundations. Even Tahara also collects zakat, and you have other organizations, that do collect zakat and all of that. However, if you're not in a position to, pay organizations and things like that, or even the organizations themselves will make mistakes if they're not too, because I heard some of the things that some organizations want to use zakat for, I'm like, that's not what they said. But anyway, so we have categories of relatives. You can't give your wife, children, parents, grandparents, grandchildren your zakat because they're under your care. But like I said, I learn new things every year. Last year, I learned that a wife can actually give her husband her zakat. That's because she's not economically responsible for him. So she can actually give him her zakat. But he cannot give her his zakat, but can he give his parents or his children? but she and all that. So I found that very interesting. Then, excuse me, please. Okay, so for mosques and Islamic centers, as wonderful as the thought of having a mosque is, Zakat is not meant for that. It's meant for individuals, right? But you know the funny thing I found out? There's an exception to every single rule. Everything here, there are exceptions to it. And it's only scholars with authority that can give you such exceptions, right? But a very, very learned mentor mentioned something about this mosque building. He said, if there is a very, very, very poor community where there are Muslims, but they don't have anywhere at all to gather, for to pray. They don't have, the children are going, wayward and things like that. They're not properly, the madrasa is not there, all those things. If there is a situation like that, it may be necessary to use zakat for a mosque. But then who are we to determine that? So I just mentioned it here because you might have there are exceptions to every single rule here. But let's just toe this line of caution because we're not qualified to determine where an exception will occur. But the general rule is that no, it's not for mosques. No matter how good your intentions are, you can use, like I said, sadaqah is, you can use your sadaqah to build all the mosques, but not zakat. Then for hospitals and schools, construction, no. Zakat again. So you can see the recurring thing here is zakat is meant for individuals. Zakat is meant for individuals. It's hand to hand. So it's not for hospitals and schools. But you can use zakat to pay somebody's hospital bill. Yes. You can use zakat to pay somebody's school fees, but you cannot build a school with zakat. You cannot build a hospital with zakat. So I think that's the distinction there. So for the needy and poor non-Muslims, zakat is meant to be paid to Muslims, and that's because you want to improve the livelihood of the Muslims. Because remember what I said about the ills of a poor society. People can do things they never ever would have done if they were not under so dire straits. But like I said, there's an exception to every rule. In what circumstance? Well, a scholar said that in a life and death situation, you can actually give your zakat to a non-Muslim. So, for example, they want to have a serious operation, or there was an accident, or that kind of thing. You can actually give your zakat to a non-Muslim, right? But guess what? You can give your sadaqah to anybody. So you may not be able to give your zakat to a non-Muslim, but you can give your sadaqah to non-Muslims. You can give your sadaqah to the Red Cross if you like, but zakat is meant for Muslims. Then paying abroad. This was also a bit controversial. So not controversial, but like I said, there's an exception to every rule. Paying abroad, it is preferable that you pay in your society, because remember we said remove the, what's that word again? I've forgotten the anyway, you're supposed to try and improve your own society before another society, because guess what? When you have a crime-ridden state, you are the one going to be attacked. So why don't you try and better the lives of those in your midst, the local ummah? However, what I also learned is that if you feel that, what, I think I've done a lot for this ummah, I want to pay some zakat to people in Palestine right now that need it, you can also do that. You can also do that. But I guess, like I said, each situation is based on, you have to weigh it carefully. You want to send money to Palestine, or your cousin is struggling, you have to wait. All right, so then delaying till Ramadan. Okay, yes, I think I already touched on this because everybody loves Ramadan. But one scholar once said, are there no poor people in Shawwal. And they're not poor people in other months. It's the only Ramadan that they are poor people. What are you going to give? How are they supposed to survive if everybody pays in Ramadan? So that was another thought. So, we should all think about it. All right. So I think that ends that. So let's talk a bit about Zakat Fitri. Zakat Fitri, what does that mean, really? This is Zakat that you pay just after Ramadan. So it becomes due, at the end of Ramadan, it becomes due at the end of Ramadan. And why is this? Again, Allah the Most Merciful, He wants the poor Muslims to also rejoice after such a blessed month, And so He has said, you know what? Pay Zakat Fitri at the end of Ramadan. And paying Zakat Fitri also purifies our fasts, right? The head of the family is responsible for paying for every member of the household and dependents. It's usually paid 2 to 3 days before Ramadan ends. And it must be paid before we pray. Before we pray Eid prayers, you must pay your Zakat Fitri. How do you pay Zakat Fitri? You can pay with grains. So rice, wheat, millet, whatever the local staple food is in your community, you can pay Zakat with that. But you also have societies where it's not like Nigeria here. You have people that live in the UK. They might not be able to pay grains and things like that. So they can pay cash to an organization that specializes in Zakat Fitri. So you have to look for that organization in wherever your society you find yourself. And they would assist with administering and ensuring that the needy get the grains before Eid. Here in Nigeria, you can take your rice to the mosque. It will help you there. Mosques that collect mosque in your community. Oh, yes, by the way, what I read, that is also better to give the mosque where you have been praying your Tarawih, because it means that is your community, right? So it's preferable that your Zakat Fitri goes there so they can distribute it to those in your community. But I mean, it's not, this is just, additional, whatever it is you're able to do and all that. So that is all. Calculation of Zakat is quite simple, but there are many templates that can assist you with doing that. I've put in some templates here, and we can also put it in the chat section to help you. Once you go there, you see a lot of FAQs on Zakat, and you also have the Zakat calculator there that can help you with calculating your Zakat. So thank you very much. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. So I think we can stop sharing the slides now. Maybe you can turn your video back on if possible.
Okay. All right.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Ma. So if we can, I'll go back to where we last were in the chat. Yeah, so I think again, there was, when calculating Zakat, do we include our cumulative assets and wealth, which includes these pensions? Should we not also include cumulative debt, like the balance of our mortgages?
No. It's only what is due.
If we are calculating your total assets to check if you meet the nisab, the value of a pension should be included. I think you've
it should be included. Yes.
Can zakat be used to feed the needy during Ramadan?
It is for the needy. It is for the needy.
And
I don't
so
understand the question.
I think it's, yeah, can it be used to feed the needy? So I think maybe the person is asking if you can maybe use it to buy food for them, but I think it's better to give it to cash
You have to give it to them.
in
Don't, okay,
cash.
oh, that's what he means, as in use it to buy. Okay, you mean give it to them. The thing about Zakat, you can't dictate what they do with it. You can't dictate it. You can't dictate what to do with it. Give it to them, they buy the food, that's fine.
How can
So which means that, so for example, you have like an iftar program, right? And so you do packs of food. That's sadaqah. That's sadaqah. Okay.
how can unmarried Muslimah that is not staying at home with their parents pay Zakat al-Fitr?
I don't understand that.
So I think,
What has unmarried or anything got to do with anything?
so I think the person just saying that
Did
they're
you
not,
fast?
they don't live at home.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, let me try that. You don't live at home. What does that mean? It means you can afford rent, right? Fine. As long as you can afford rent, then it means you can afford to do 2.25 kg of rice, wheat, curry, and give it to someone.
Yeah, so
that's
if I think what they're saying,
so,
they want to pay Zakat al-Fitr on behalf of their parents, but they don't live with them.
you can.
Okay.
You can. You know, I mean, of course. Okay, that's what she means. Why not?
Okay, and then there's another clarification about even if you don't have access, so your pension, again, your pension is being taken in, but you don't have direct access to the pension. Still,
Yeah,
you
have to pay. Don't worry. See, everybody had that issue. That everybody had it, and it's not up to you to decide how you want to do it. Like I said, you can change your intention. So when you're just dashing, you think about it. Is this person a Muslim? Is this person needy? Okay. And what does person? Okay, take the cash. As in, you can try modify your intentions. Unlike before, I need this, I need that. Take. You don't think of just say. So you can now modify your intentions so that you can. And then, please, everybody, have your Excel sheet. Very important. And because you will forget. And it also helps you with your calculation. So you're not sure, do I not owe? Because of the way Zakat is calculated, right? It shows that it's not a joke, right? So you should also take it seriously. So you should write it down. 30,000, I give that person. If what you owe is that much, by the time you start ticking up, you will see that you start paying, right? And all that. So, all right.
Clarification. I thought that unmarried lady can't give Zakat. It has to be done by her parents. I think this is the same person that had the question about parents and Zakat.
I've never heard that before. So I don't know. I've never heard that before.
Okay, that might be something we can maybe ask a scholar.
Yeah, you can ask a scholar. I've never heard that before.
How
because what has unmarried got to do with it? If you can inherit, yeah, in Islam you can inherit, can't you? Women inherit. So what has that got to do with once you and remember we said Zakat is on possession, so you are allowed to inherit. Then if you inherited stocks, you say you pay Zakat. Inherit stocks, shares, you inherit property, you're collecting rents. You should not say because you're not married. I don't think I haven't heard it before. So
actually, I think because this is related to the Zakat al-Fitr question, I think she's saying
Zakat al-Fitr. Oh, okay,
it's not in the comments, but I think it's
okay.
That's what it is. So if you're an unmarried woman, it has to be done by your parents. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, we can research that. I haven't heard that before though.
How do you pay on pension? So how do you pay on pension money from your existing purse? So if I have investments in Lotus, for example, did I deduct out of it to pay Zakat?
You can. In fact, a lot of people do, especially in Ramadan. In Ramadan, you can.
Yeah. Can I split my Zakat amongst multiple individuals?
Of course. Of course.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I think if anyone still has questions, they are welcome to put them in the chat. But I think that's all I can see. All I can see for now. So I think on a high level, the main thing is just to be very conscious of every year at a set point in the year, calculate all your wealth, and put 2.5% on it. And obviously there's some categories of wealth that's, it's not, you don't qualify, but if you should be doing this every year, essentially.
Yes, every year. Choose a year that is convenient for you. You can even choose a time where you get the most, maybe you get some bonuses and stuff like that. So it's easy for you to pay instead of having to sell your shares or things like that. So
okay, I think Ibrahim, you might be able to unmute now. Ibrahim wanted to.
It's another question. I just saw something pop up.
Yeah, I'm still not clear on pension. If I have 10 million in my pension, does it mean I still have to take 2.5% from my salary to pay it? Please clarify.
Yes, that's what it means. Or you can wait till you're 60 and pay it then. But guess what? It means that every year from now to you're 60, you'll be accumulating it, right? But what the scholar said was that pay when it's convenient. Do you understand? Pay when it's convenient, pay gradually, right? Or you can wait till you receive the cash and then you can pay. So it's really up to you, right? And what I meant, and the main cash you get is actually from your salary. But first of all, another thing I like to say is that you can start small. You can start small and slowly build up. Like I said, you can pay when you get a bonus, right? It's really up to you. There's no hard and fast rule. You see, when these things happen, the way people react to it, is different, right? Just know you have a debt, and then it's up to you to now figure out how you're going to pay the debt. Just figure it out.
Okay, Ibrahim, are you able to unmute now and ask your question? Or
I am the G. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
alaikum, MD. This Zakat thing, every year, like when I pay Zakat, I feel like I'm winging it. You see what I'm saying? I'm forever confused, right? And I feel like there has to be like a more straightforward way of sort of figuring out what you're supposed to pay. There's a year that somebody said to me that, what the hack is, check, like go back a year into the past, right? Check how much like you had and how much you have now, and do like a subtraction and pay like Zakat on the difference. Like that's a straightforward hack. So I winged it that year using that method. Because it gets like a little bit complicated when you say, so for example, I know that if you have like liabilities like rent, right, you're supposed to deduct it. So say in Nigeria where you're paying rent annually, for example, right, and you have your annual rent due, say, next week, but you want to pay Zakat today, right? Are you good? Would you deduct for the entire year?
You use the word due. Once it's due, you can deduct it.
So you deduct for the entire year?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so okay, cool. One. Secondly, say you had money in the bank.
Can I comment on that a bit?
Sure.
Yes. I think the best thing to do is just pick a period, right, to start from. So you don't have to go back to what you had a year ago and everything. Just pick a year, pick a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And compute what you have on that day. Pay Zakat on it and continue from there. Now, I'm not talking about pension that's in my own, for years, but in that situation, so what that does, it gives you a jump start. That okay, this is the time. Or assuming you got a new job in February, right? You can now start using February or rather that Ramadan month. The Ramadan month your new job fell into, right? You can now use that as okay, every Shawwal, for example, that will be my Zakat date. So you don't have to go back. Just say how many stocks do I have? Blah blah blah. What's my cash? Blah blah blah. Bonds. Blah blah blah. Everything, rental income. What do I have in my account on that day? And you pay Zakat on it. The following year, the same thing. Today is Shawwal 1. What do I have?
So it don't
for.
matter if your position has gone up or gone down.
All you need to know is, does it meet Nisab? Does it meet Nisab? Were you here in the beginning?
I was here, yeah.
Exactly. So Nisab is your benchmark. Once whether it went to 12 or 11 or whatever, as long as it's up to the 8.6 or 8.5, or if you're morally fine, as long as it's above 5 million, calculate your zakat on it. Do you understand? And yeah, so you just go like that. You don't need
Question.
to, because
What
it
if
becomes
you so sorry to jump in. I know
Go
that
ahead.
we're about to run out of time, and
It's fine.
what if you were saving towards something, right? So say you were saving towards a mortgage, for example. Would you deduct from it as well?
Yes. If you've been saving for a year, you deduct from it. Well, it's not much, 2.5. The 8.5 that I calculated on the 8.6 million, zakat is 200K. Do you understand? 200,000. It's not as bad as you think. Do you
I don't
understand?
think, to be fair, I don't think it's bad. It's just understanding
Exactly. Understanding.
what it
Okay.
is.
All right. So that's fine. It's okay.
It's
So
just
yes.
understanding that. And I've got another question about the pension one as well. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I have this in there. It's very confusing for me. I'm not even in Nigeria right now, right? But I set like an alarm to make sure that I didn't miss this one, because every year I attend a lot of zakat like webinars, and I'm still confused.
Okay.
That's why I kept begging Digits to see if we could make it interactive from jump.
That's fine. It's all right. That's fine.
The pension one is confusing as well, right? Because you don't have access to the money. So how are you paying zakat on it? Technically, it's not your money. I mean, it's your money, but it's also not your money unless like there's a trigger event, right? So how come it's zakatable?
Well, it is your money. It is your money, actually. It has, I mean, if you get your statements and the statement says Ibrahim Babalola, so it's yours, actually. And I can't dip into it and say, oh, and when you were filling your forms, you had beneficiaries, if anything happens to you. So it's actually yours. Do you understand?
But in Nigeria, you can't access the pension until, say, maybe 6 months after you lose your job or you become, I think, 50 or something.
Yes. Which is why, because believe me, what you're saying to me is exactly what I was saying to the person. And he said, yes, we understand that. But you need to pay gradually. The issue here is that we didn't start asking questions early enough, which is why I'm hoping that there's some young professionals on the call so that they can start early. We are a little flustered because a lot of time has gone by. But if you start early, you just, I mean, you start and you'll be fine. You'll be fine, I'll pay it. And the issue we're having is that accumulated. And so you're not going back how many years. But if you start early, you won't have the issue, right? So that's why you're looking at it from that perspective. If you live in an Islamic state where you're conscious of it, we won't even be having this conversation because you'll have thought about it. So it will be less of a burden because you'll be able to settle it, easily than because remember that your pension is from your salary. It's a fraction of your salary. It's a fraction. So you should be able to pay zakat on it. The reason we're having issues is because it has accumulated over the years. It's a fraction of your salary. So, and then the zakat you're paying is not even on the entire thing. It's a fraction. So it's a fraction of a fraction. Do you understand? It's a fraction of a fraction. So, but the issue is because it's accumulated. So the rules can't change because we didn't know about it. The only thing is, first of all, Allah knows your heart. Allah knows, let me not say your heart. Allah knows our hearts. Yeah, Allah knows our hearts. And He has seen our intention. So the intention is to pay it. That's one. I think that's the most important thing. The intention is to pay it. And you know how they say in the jurors, did you show contrition? So you have to demonstrate that you also want to pay it. So, even if it's just a bit of money, paying here and there, the debt is still big. I believe Allah is merciful, right? And I believe that you didn't know, now you know, and now you are trying in your own way I believe, alhamdulillah, you're not alone, I assure you so.
Question.
But the rules can't change because we didn't know.
I've got two more questions that I'm going to promise that sorry.
All right.
One more.
Okay, one more. Can I merge it?
Go ahead. Don't mind. Just there are 1 or 2 questions in the chat I wanted to get to, but go for it. Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure that when I leave this session, at least I can pay to Zakat. If you had savings in a different currency, say you will have some money in dollars, for example, right? Of course, we're going to calculate on that amount. Is it okay to convert everything for the sake of calculation into one currency, right? And then do the 2.5 on that amount. So let me add a bit of context. Say you had 200K US, for example, right? And you had 5 million naira, right? But you're planning to distribute, to do a Zakat contribution or distribution in naira, right? Does it make sense to either convert the naira position to dollars or convert the dollar position to naira and then calculate the 2.5% on it? And I don't mean like convert in actual sense, I mean for the sake of calculation. Or how does that work? And the second question, when you were speaking about, sorry, they're just still inside the first one. When you were speaking about the car financing, right? So are you still here? I don't know if she's frozen.
She's still there.
Okay. Do you calculate just the payment for that month, or do you calculate the payment for the rest of that year in what you're deducting as an amount due?
Okay, let me take the first one. So the first one, from my understanding, you have naira, you have FX.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think you need to mix all of them. But I mean, if you are paying in naira, you have to convert at some point. Do you understand? So you have you're gonna have a spreadsheet. So and we are paying in naira, the 5 million goes in on its own. The 300 has to go in as well, so you can convert it. I'm not really sure there's an issue on conversion or not. I think the issue is, can you compute 2 point? Is the value different? Is the value different? So if you compute 2.5 of 300 and change it to naira, is the value different if you convert 300K to naira and compute 2.5% of that? I think you're going to get exactly the same thing.
Sometimes the buy and sell rate is different. The exchange rate on the day that it's just, I guess.
If you do it on the same day, remember you're picking a day to calculate. I think it's on the same day. You can do a quick example now. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure that's FX. That's not an issue. I don't think it's
okay.
It's just it's currency, it's okay. Cash. So okay. I don't think it's an issue there. Regarding the car loan, right? What we said was, you have loans and you have debts, right? Mm-hmm. And you can the money you owe, you can remove that in your computations in calculating Zakat. Remember that Zakat is done annually, right? So it depends. It's what you have that is due that you calculate your Zakat on. So, for example, you have a car loan that is 4 years. You don't bring the whole, because it's not due. The bank gave you time to pay, right? So you can't now bring that in a 1 year situation. They say pay in 4 years. Therefore, you can't say, oh, let me bring the whole money into what I owe. No, it's what you owe currently in that year that you deduct. Do you understand? What is due that you deduct? Is that clear?
So if you were paying this month, for example, would we calculate up until December and deduct?
No, it's for this month. It's what is due this month. Because in December, remember, December is almost a year from now. That will go into the Zakat for the following year. Do you understand? But if it's close, probably in a month or two, you can deduct it, right? But if it's in December, it will meet December payments. Do you get? Which is why it's done annually. Everything meets each other. Do you get?
This is clear. You spoke about an Excel. Is that something that you're able to share? Is that something that exists?
We have one on our website. I think I showed that earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, and some people have also shared some resources in the chat of like Zakat calculators and things like that. So you can have a look at those.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Deji.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll post.
There is
her and MD. Thank you.
Yeah, there's still some question. I believe you've answered those questions already, but you know, and if I have 10 million in my pension account, do I have to take 2.5% from my salary to pay? Please clarify. I think you have answered that. Just to stimulate, I have 10 million in my account that's been there for over a year. This amount meets the nisab. What's the exact amount in zakat? That'll be whatever 2.5% of whatever is there. That you just calculate 2.5% of your wealth. That's the rate. How do you accumulate zakat? How do you
of your financial assets? Financial assets. Don't forget that.
Your financial assets. Yes.
Yes, financial assets.
Not wealth. How do you calculate accumulated zakat you didn't pay? You have met nisab some years ago. So I think this is about if you have accumulated zakat, how do you pay that?
Accumulated zakat. You have to liquidate some cash to pay. You have to liquidate some cash to pay. You have accumulated some of your wealth. So you can sell some shares, some sukuk to pay, depending on if it's affordable. Because you'd be surprised that it might just be a small quantity you need to sell. So for example, you have 10 million worth of stocks, right? And you need to pay 200K zakat. You can sell some and just pay. I think we should stop seeing zakat as some huge burden. It isn't actually. And what I just computed now was on 8.6 million, zakat is 216,000. Last year, when nisab was 2.5 million, zakat was 63,000. So it's not sorry.
How do small business owners incorporate the value of the business for zakat, or do we take the business as an entity on its own?
Well, it's actually supposed to be individuals that pay zakat, right? However, businesses is the stock that they have that qualify for zakat, not the entire business, just the stock, inventory.
Okay. Another person. What about NHF contributions? I believe that's national. I'm not sure what NHF means.
Or HMO or something.
Probably related to that. It's probably like a health. I'm not sure.
I don't think that qualifies because you actually spend. It's not even your money. It's not your name anymore. So it doesn't qualify. If at some point you even start owing, they stop paying. They say, no, you don't have to qualify. You have to pay for yourself, pay your bills yourself. So that's not.
So technically, we should put aside 2.5% of our monthly salary to cover our pension zakat obligation.
Okay, sorry. It's National Housing Fund. National Housing Fund. I think it should qualify. So now I'm saying I think here very, very carefully because I have not made inquiries. But from the logic, right? If it's a saving that is in your name, after 1 year, it's yours. And then you can even have access to it at some point, right? So if you go by that logic, for pension that we don't even have access to, and then this NHF that you may have access to, then I think you qualify as well. So it's even good, fantastic for asking that question. Oh, Fatih, it's fantastic to ask that question so that you can start early. And then guess what? Even if you don't even, it doesn't now qualify for zakat. Does it hurt anybody? No, it doesn't. In fact, it even helps you.
I came in late. Don't know if this has been cleared. If you save money and invest with your bank and accumulate interest, looking at riba, do you calculate zakat from that?
How much zakat do you pay from that?
If you
zero.
Have,
zero. You have to pay out your interest as charity, but you can pay zakat on your principal, but not on the interest. Not on the interest, because it's not halal. You can only pay zakat on permissible income, which is why I mentioned earlier that we have to start moving towards halal investments so that we can meet our obligations properly.
Can you use the Islamic calendar to pay zakat as opposed to the conventional calendar?
It's even better. It's even better. I told you of the mistake I used to make. That, oh, every December I'll pay zakat. And it didn't even occur to me that each month, right? Each year, the months move, by 11 days, which is why Ramadan is now going towards very soon. I'll be fasting on my birthday very soon. The last time I fasted on my birthday, I think I was 14 or 15 years old. So very soon I'll be fasting on my birthday. It shows that the months are going. So if you say, I will pay zakat every December, at some point, zakat will become due earlier. In fact, in 3 years, your zakat will become due in November. But you are saying, we're going to pay zakat in December. In another 3 years, your zakat is due in October. But you're still thinking you're going to be paying zakat in December. So it's much better to use an Islamic month as your own basis to start, so that Ramadan in March is fine. Ramadan in December is Ramadan. Ramadan in October is Ramadan. So it's easier. You don't have to wonder, 11 days, 3 days. So it's better. That's my recommendation because of some of the mistakes that I made. So the earlier you sort that out, the better.
Okay, I think that those are all the questions I can see in the chat. Thank you very much, Ma. I'll make one more announcement. So we also have a special discussion tomorrow, Sunday, centered around compassion and empathy with Imam Ahmed Khalil. So please, same time, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. West African time. So please, we're asking you all to join and attend that session tomorrow, inshallah. Again, I just want to thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for your time and volunteering your time to us every year for this session. And always very insightful, always very engaging. And hopefully we all leave this session with clear ideas on an actionable items on how to pay our zakat contributions. And may Allah reward our efforts. What time tomorrow? 2 p.m., 2 to 4 p.m. West African time. The same time that you joined.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. It's just for Sunday. Not daily.
So what did you say?
No, I'm just responding to the comments.
Okay.
The session is just on Sunday.
Okay.
Inshallah. So again, thank you so much, Ma. And again, thank you to everyone for attending, for all the lively questions and engagement. Really appreciate. Please follow all our social media pages. Leave if you want to join our WhatsApp group, leave your numbers in the chat. Leave your numbers in the chat. I'll add you to the WhatsApp groups. There's another session tomorrow. It's not daily, but it's at 2 to 4 p.m. So please join at that time. Alhamdulillah. Again, thank you very much, Ma, and thank you very much to everyone. See you same time tomorrow, inshallah. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for having me. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.